Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm so excited that you're all here. I'm glad everyone made it in okay. If you want to grab snacks again, everyone needs to have a snack, just in case you want one. You'll be able to see here and just make sure everybody has like a good view. If you need to move your seat, if you guys want to move a little closer, please feel free. I'll give you all hugs, like it's fine. We can be very close to each other. This is Alexa. She's gonna be our beautiful model. That's Kelsey back there. She's my assistant. And this is Wayne. He's a video guy. He's the best. So we're just gonna kind of get started. If you guys have any questions, we'll do questions at the end. So there's like a little section on the back of all that paper. You can write it on the back. So if you have like a question, please jot it down and then we'll have like a whole Q&A session at the end. So if there's anything that pops up, let me know and we'll just kind of run through everything as we go. And then if there's anything that's like really important at the time, give me a hand and we'll go over it, okay? So we're gonna start by, I'm gonna move this over a little bit. Feel very claustrophobic up here. Okay, so we're gonna go over how I do basically my like classic soft glam wedding vibe. So I typically do either like a warm eye, warm pinky eye. That's like definitely where I find I love that bridal look. That's one of my favorite looks. So we're gonna do that on Miss Alexa today. So the first thing, I am kind of going to run through consultation and kind of go over how I consult with my brides the day of and when I am doing a trial. So I'll kind of go through like what my trial protocol is. Like, let's say like I've never met her, she doesn't know me, we're just meeting for the first time, and we're going to kind of go through all of the questions that I like to ask whenever we start there. So I always start making sure, I'm sure you all know because you're all artists, how important having a nice, organized, and clean setup is. Prioritizing this, and if you follow me, I'm sure you know I have like a depotting problem. I love doing it. It's my favorite thing. Everything's in little containers. So we'll kind of talk about that at the end because I'll talk about that for like 45 minutes. So I have to cut that a little bit short. But having like a clean, organized setup is going to make you as fast as you possibly can without having to sacrifice anything. Knowing exactly what products you have and where they are next to you is going to make you not only efficient, but you're going to look much more professional. This looks, I've seen some artists and they have stuff like everything's falling all over the place. They've got stuff they're, you know, like it's all down on the floor. Everybody's got makeup all over them. Having a clean environment is going to make you much more organized. And it's going to make your client feel a little bit better too. I think it's the little things that make your bride more relaxed. When you're frazzled, she's frazzled. So making sure that you're calm and collected is probably one of the most important things to start with. So when I am talking to my bride, you're gonna be my bride today, the first thing I kind of try to go over is skin and preferences when it comes to how they like their skin to look. I always ask, are you oily? Are you dry? Are you kind of combo right in the middle? Some people don't know what their skin type is. I always like to just kind of gently give them a little bit of a feel because sometimes they'll say they have oily skin and then you go like this and they're like, you know. So you want to make sure that you're just kind of touching the skin. You feel it, you know, try not to be like, you know, giving them like a rub down, but that definitely helps when you are just kind of touching everything. Make sure she has no dry patches. I think typically right here, everybody gets dry. They're really stressed. They always are going to have breakouts. So just trying to kind of address that and let them know, like when they're like, I have a pimple, I have this, that's okay, we'll cover it, and then kind of move on. You know, the more that you harp on something, you don't want them to be uncomfortable about it when it comes to any little blemish. You know, you make note of it and then don't really talk about it with them. You just kind of go over it with your skin prep. I also talk about if they want to be more dewy, more matte, and in the middle. And when you are talking to them, most people aren't going to know exactly what it is. If they're dewy, matte, or in the middle, they're not going to really know. That's when those photos that they have are going to be really helpful. I typically find that brides will show you like a varying 2 or 3 photos at a time. They're going to show you, you know, one matte, one glowy, or they're going to be all super glowy. So I try to touch whenever they're looking at the photo. Do you like the way her skin is kind of shining in that photo? No, okay, I don't really like the shiny. I like this photo, it's a little more in between, but I definitely like a highlight. Getting those little things out of them is gonna be really important. That way you are gonna have much more success at the end because they're not gonna be like, wow, I'm really shiny. Where did you get that from? You're like, well, that's the photo that you showed me. She was shiny. You know, the Sophia Richie thing, you know, they're all wanting to be super shiny, but we all know that that's not gonna look good in the Florida humidity in 5 hours. You're gonna look super greasy. So kind of finding an in-between and telling them, okay, we can do this, but if you get a little oily in your T-zone, we're gonna mattify your T-zone, so you might feel a little powdery there, but in 5 hours, you're gonna feel much more natural. Kind of prefacing them for what you wanna do with that is gonna be really, really helpful in making sure that they're happy at the end. So once I kind of have a good idea of the skin that they are, I always look, see, you know, okay, they have bigger pores here, they need this here. And so I'm gonna kind of figure out and go over to my skincare and say, what did I just step on? I think there was an acorn in my shoe. That's a very Florida thing to have happen. So I always start after I've done my prep, as I'm going through my skin prep, because I like my skin prep to sit as much as possible. I get a lot of questions because I do the sheet masks and the massage as part of my bridal package. I will do their skin prep as I'm still doing their consultation. Sometimes too, I'll have them sit down and do a consultation like before I do like my last bridesmaid, let's say, and then I'll let her skin prep sit as I'm doing that. And that way it can kind of chill for like 20-30 minutes as I'm finishing the consultation. So I start by using a toner. I either will do Bioderma. If someone that has like a little bit more sensitive skin, I will always just do like a cleanse with Bioderma. Some people are like, I'm really worried about getting red, feeling red. So I'll start with that. Or I love the Sephora Vitamin E and C toner. It's the Sephora brand. It's fragrance-free. It's very gentle on the skin, but it still makes sure that you cleanse and can get any of those little like dry, flaky patches to kind of exfoliate very lightly. I've seen some artists that love those like peel pads. I personally get scared to use those because if you've never used them before and you use something a little more aggressive and they have some weird reaction, you don't want to chance that on their wedding day. You know, if they feel fine with it and they've used it in the past, then that's not a big deal. But I just personally try to stay away from anything that could possibly give them some sort of breakout. So I load up a couple of cotton pads with my toner, and always make sure, you know, you're clipping their stuff out of the way, all their hair and everything. I just cleanse the skin. I try to stay away from the eye area, and I go all down the neck. Make sure that we're getting the toner everywhere. Make sure you're really cleaning good too around the nose area. I think I would say like 90% of brides get drunk the night before their wedding. They do not take their makeup off very well. So like sometimes I'll do this step like 2 or 3 times if there's any makeup left over. Also, I've seen a lot of photos on Instagram of people that neglect the ears and behind the ears. I've started actually to add that into my bridal prep. If you're gonna fake tan or self tan, make sure that they do behind their neck and on their ears, because they will have a big white patch right here if their hair is up. And then in the photos, like you get a jump scare of like this white circle in the back of their neck. So I always make sure to tell them that too, that like, hey, just be conscious. If you're self tanning, go all the way up your neck. I tell them not to put anything on their face. Sometimes self-tanner or spray tan can react with makeup and kind of make it slide around. So I prefer them not to do that, but they don't always listen. So cleansing the skin, making sure that there's nothing on there is going to be super helpful. I always try to do a sheet mask or some sort of leave-on mask. I love the Summer Fridays, the jet lag mask. That is a really nice leave-on mask that you can use to kind of let sit, especially if they have really dry skin. Some people come and, you know, they just have like a little bit more reactive skin. That's a really, really good one to use if they're a little bit scared about the sheet masks. So I just started using these. They're a little juicy. These snail mucin masks. I get them on Amazon, and they're definitely one of the best like bang for your buck. You can get a pack of 10 of them for 20 bucks. And they're super gentle. I haven't had any issues with reaction. They are very thin though. That's the only kind of gripe I have about them, is they are a little bit on the thinner side, so they're very difficult to kind of get out of the package. But the Dr. Jart ones are also really nice. They sell them at Sephora. They're $10 per mask. But those ones they have the hyaluronic acid one, and that's a beautiful one to just prep makeup with. You don't want to use anything that's like resurfacing, like a vitamin C or anything like that, that can, you know, irritate the skin. And the last thing that you want to do prior is irritate the skin. You look so scared.
I use this mask at home.
Do you? Oh, sorry, I got it in your mouth.
I was talking.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. So as this is sitting, this is when I'm gonna, they always like to laugh and take a bunch of photos, which I think is really funny. I had one the other day, she was like, that's her new contact photo on my phone. It's just her, like, I'm like doing her hair. She's got like a full bridal updo and like this mask on. So I like to do this and just kind of rub it in. And then these ones are like, they're extra juicy. So what I'll do is kind of put it in my hand and I'll just rub it on their chest and down their neck and just give them like a little, you know, they feel good. We're trying to add that like extra time in there just to make them feel special. Also, again, most of the brides are gonna have off the shoulder, so we don't want to neglect this area. This is something that's gonna pull your makeup together, is making sure that this has a little bit of glow or makeup. Like, I definitely will make up my entire bride's like neck and chest if they have, you know, some people get really red. Asking those kind of questions, he'll tell you, but I always at the end of my consultation, is there anything specific that you have with like your face or your neck that you want to cover up or change or add? You know, that way they can say, you know what, I forgot, I feel like I do get super red on my chest, so let's make sure that we add a little bit into there. So, Kelsey, can I have a paper towel? I forgot to put them back up here. I'm juicy. But I'm like so glad I found these masks. They're so nice and they're very cost effective too, because I like to do them with all my brides, even if I do a bride only, which I don't know, does anybody in here do bride only? Is there a couple people in here that I know do hair and makeup, right? Okay, perfect. So even if you are doing like a little elopement or a bride only, it's like a really nice thing just to give them. It makes them feel special, even if it's not really like doing anything, you know, because I know sometimes you have to leave it on for long periods of time. So these are just really nice to make them feel good and add that extra step to make them feel like they're getting their money's worth. This is also a really good way to upsell your services, you know. If you do, my biggest thing, if you want to raise your prices, you also need to increase value for your bride. So if you're just raising your prices and you're not really getting any more from the service, the odds are the brides aren't going to feel like they're getting that extra oomph in their service. Letting them see this, posting this, you know, I have brides that message me and are like, I can't wait for my facial massage. I can't wait for my sheet mask. You know, those are the little things that people, because it sets you apart. It sets you apart from everyone else. They're like, well, this girl does this, but this girl doesn't do this. So I'm definitely going to pay the extra $20 because I'm getting the extra treatment on the day of the wedding, you know? I love these things. These are my favorite things in the world. They are stainless steel, so they stay cold. If I'm at like a hotel, I'll actually go grab a cup. I have these little cups too that I keep my brushes in. I'll just spray this with alcohol and wipe it out. I'll go put some ice and then I'll stick them in here while I'm doing like bridesmaids or anything, so they do get cold. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but they stay pretty cool because they are stainless steel, so you don't have to continuously be worried about that. I just keep them in my kit and, you know, wipe them down, and they're super easy to sanitize, so making sure that you wipe them in between is also really important as well. When I do my facial massages, I only do like 3 to 4 minutes, but that feels like a long time for them. So, you know, I just kind of tell them to close their eyes. I make sure nobody is around them asking questions. I know for some reason, whenever they get into the chair, everybody feels like they have to ask them 100 questions. I'm like, why? They've been just sitting here for 5 hours. Why are you doing this to me? So I start on the forehead and I just make some circles and kind of work my way down. You want to give a little bit of pressure with this, but not too much. Same thing, underneath the neck and the jawline. I always bring it down the neck. And it's really nice on the sheet mask because it just kind of slides around. It's going to just push everything into the skin. Kelsey, keep me on time because I'm going to yap. I'm sure no, everyone's fine with me yapping, but I will yap the entire time, so she has to keep me on track. Whenever you need one, everybody finds you a Kelsey. She's the best investment in my business I've ever made. I'm telling you. I can't stay up till 4 a.m. doing emails. I would rather stab both my eyes out, and she just does it so good. She does such a better job. All right, so you get the gist, you know. You're getting a little bit short massage, I'm sorry. I'm cutting it short.
I'll forgive you.
Okay, thank you. So, you know, typically, like, as I'm doing that, I'll kind of ask them questions. Some people, like, if they want to be silent, you know, you can tell. You get the vibe from them. Some people are, like, overstimulated and just want, like, a second of quiet. So sometimes I'll do the consultation then. Sometimes while this is sitting now, this is when I'll ask the rest of the questions. So I'll have them pull their photos back up for me. I always have them show me on their phone. I have them send it to me in advance, but I do have them show it to me on their phone so that I can have them point out specifically what it is that they're talking about. And also, you know, you don't want to, we've all got 5,000 photos. I'm like, oh, that's another bride. Sorry, girl. Like, going through everything. So just having them show you what they're talking about is going to make it a little bit easier. I always will have them, like, have it in their lap, and I'm going to go through every single photo. So typically I ask them to have at least 2 or 3 photos of what they like. And I'll start from the eyes down. So I'll go through the eyes and I'll say, okay, do you like the way her shadow is shaped on her eyes? Do you like the wing that she has? I would say 95% of these wedding looks are having wings nowadays. It's pretty rare that I get asked for a non-wing. Do you like the wing? Yes or no? Do you like a smoky wing or do you like more of a solid wing? That's something that I think is really important. Eyeliner can be really tricky. Some people find eyeliner to be extremely overwhelming, and that's all that they look at when they see, when people are like, I hate this, I don't like this. It's most of the time because they have too much black liner on, and that feels very overwhelming for people. I always start with a dark brown, especially if they don't, like, I ask, do you like black eyeliner or brown eyeliner? You know the girly pops that are ride or die for their, like, Urban Decay eyeliner that's all over the eye. There are people that love that and there are people that hate that. So I always start with, like, black or brown liner, and then we can go from there. Do you like a little bit of a softer shimmer or do you like more matte? You know, I personally love a shimmer for a bridal. I always kind of push them towards the shimmer because I think it looks pretty, especially if they have lighter eye colors or they have those, like, you know, people have that brown eyes that have those, like, really pretty amber flecks. When you do, like, a bronzy eye, they just pull those colors out of their eyes so beautifully and look really nice. So I always try to ask about shimmer. Some people are, like, diehard matte people and they know that. And then I will go into skin. I always ask, are you a blush girly? Are you not a blush girly? Some people don't really know what that means and they look at me like I'm crazy, but I always ask, because I have had some people that are like, no blush. Don't want any pink on my face. I don't like pink. I only want to be bronzed. They still get blush, but they just don't know that they get blush, you know? They get a teeny tiny little bit of blush, but I'll keep it very subtle. But they look washed out, you know? And to me, sometimes you have to kind of go with your professional opinion, because they'll tell you that they don't like blush, but then they'll look in the mirror and be like, I feel washed out, you know? So you kind of have to go against what they're saying a little bit, but kind of hide it in a subtle way too, or you're not being like, I gave you a full pink blush even though you told me you didn't like it. Because most of the time they'll say, and if not, you blend it out and it's easy to fix afterwards. I also ask about lips after I do everything. So unless they have a very specific lip choice that they want to go with at the beginning, like sometimes I'll just ask, do you like the lip color that she has in this photo? Yes or no? Okay. When I'm finished with everything, I let them look at everything without their lipstick, because their lipstick choices are going to probably change once they see everything together. Lips are, I feel like most people would agree, lips are like one of the most difficult things for people to decide on, especially if they don't wear lipstick. 90% of people don't wear lipstick every single day. And when you put like a full lip on them, they feel very aggressive. So I always ask about lips a little bit towards the end, unless they have something that they really know is specific. I've had a couple brides recently bring their own lipstick with them, which I always encourage. I always do give a sample in their touch-up kit of their lipstick, but that way they have it. And sometimes it's like a little special. Like I love a lot of people get those like Charlotte Tilbury ones, you know, that it's a little bit of a special color, so they have it. So I always throw that in there. If you want to bring one during your trial, you can totally bring it as well. And then I will go over to, do you get sweaty on your face? That's always a question that I ask when I ask, are you oily, are you dry, are you kind of in the middle? Do you sweat on your face really bad? Some people are like, I get the sweat stash from here to here. Some people sweat like behind their face. That's where I'm gonna say, okay, we wanna add a little bit more of a grippy primer. We wanna make sure that we mattify there a little bit more, maybe not put as much glow in that area as well. They're going to sweat no matter if they are sweaters or not, if it's inside. They've got like 10 pounds of everything. They're tucked and sucked in every area. Everybody's gonna sweat. So I always like to say, like, some people just immediately before they're even done with their makeup, they're sweating. So you wanna try to get ahead of that because it is really difficult to fix it, especially when you're during the session. I have a little fan. This has come in handy way more than I ever thought it would, because sometimes the venues, I'm sure some people have worked at like historical venues, they have no air conditioning in those getting ready rooms and we're all sweating. Sometimes I'll just have her like hold the fan underneath her to make sure that she's not sweating while I'm doing her makeup. It's a lot easier to kind of go over top and powder, but if she's sweating while I'm doing her makeup, it can really ruin a lot of stuff. Same thing with the crying. You know, I always tell them, I'm like, get the tears out before I bake you. Because if I bake you, it's going to be have you seen that Instagram of the girl that's like, no, 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 when she starts crying and she's got the bake on? That's me. That's why I'm like, don't ruin my bake. So I guess I'll just stop right here. Is there any questions that everybody has about like bridal consultations, anything specific? Anybody else?
When you do like your bride, do you ever like start their skin prep and then do their hair while the skin prep?
Yep, that's exactly what I do. Typically, I will actually, even when I do a full bridal party, I typically do my bride's hair as well, 99% of the time. So I will do their skin prep, or I'll do the mask, I'll let the mask sit, and then I'll do their massage right when I'm starting their makeup. So that this will have a little bit of time to sit, and they also feel like a little pampered while they're getting their hair done. So that way they have a little bit of time in between while you're doing that. So I will take this off. She's nice and shiny. I don't massage this back into the skin. Just because I'm going to prep the skin again on top of this, I don't really need all of these products necessarily mixing together. So I'll just take a like cotton square and just remove any of that excess that like has not soaked up into her face. Now she has perfect, beautiful skin because she's a beautiful angel. But I know that not everybody has perfect skin. So if there are, I always make sure to mention, is there anything that you want me to make sure that I cover? Some people, you know, when they have freckles or moles, I have people that are like, no, 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 don't cover my freckles, don't cover my moles, you know. So I'll go through and ask like, do you want me to take any makeup off of any moles that you have, any freckles that you have? Because some people want to feel like them. Those are their, you know, very unique to them. I always ask that question because some people want to cover them. So I make sure to ask, yeah?
If you're not doing the mask and massaging the rest of the what do you use?
So I will just use whatever skin prep I'm using. So like I always do Embryolisse. That's pretty much what I prep everybody with. I'll just put a little bit of extra on my little doodads and I will just kind of massage that in. It's just massaging the product in, and that stays pretty slick so you're not like dragging them across. The only thing you don't want to do, you want to use some sort of oil-based product with that because you'll start to drag it across their skin and it doesn't feel very good after that. So I'm going to just take that off her skin. Make sure your ears are so moisturized. Okay. So I also love these little eye patches. They are one of my favorite things that I have ever discovered. These are actually lashing eye pads. They are super cheap, first of all. They act as shadow shields, and instead of doing the ones that come in, the container, like the Peter Thomas Roth ones, and a lot of people use the Pixie ones, those ones are going to start sliding down their face throughout the makeup application. These stick really well, and they will sink in her eye cream. So I always put an eye cream down. I find that that's better than what comes on those little jelly patches, I guess is what they are. They don't slide, they don't move around, and they act as a shadow shield. So you're kind of hitting it all in one with that. So I start with my Embryolisse and I lay that down. I use a foundation brush to lay down all of my skincare, and then I'll kind of press everything in with my fingers afterwards. I don't know if anybody else does this, but when I do makeup, I'm like this the entire time. I've had people film me doing makeup and I'm contorted all over their face. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm sure we've all had really unflattering photos of us working, being posted. I'm like, nobody was gonna say hey girl, look a little, stick your neck out. Not yeah, why are you doing this to me? So you hate me, that's what you're telling me. I also bring this down the neck because we are gonna make sure, never neglect the neck. You will have a really bad photo. Never neglect the neck. The neck is part of the face, We're here to make sure that this whole upper half is our responsibility. So we want to make sure that every single area of it looks really, really beautiful and glowing. Okay. So I actually have been experimenting with eye creams lately. My favorite eye cream that I have found is actually the Charlotte Tilbury, the Magic Cream, but just the regular, not the eye cream. I feel like it's not super greasy, or it's not gel-like. Any gel products are gonna pill under makeup. It doesn't matter how much they say they won't, they always pill. So this is definitely one of my favorite products that I use under the eyes. I will say depotting it is a little bit tricky. She's very thick. I saw somebody actually put it in a lip gloss tube, one of those empty little lip gloss tubes, and that's a little bit easier to squish out than this. I probably won't put the next one in. And also, if you depot it, you can just buy the refills because they sell the refills online. You don't have to buy the full tub because the glass packaging is 90% of the cost. Look up for me. The Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream. And she has a pro discount. So make sure that you apply for that pro discount because it is 40%. So it really helps. And they're pretty fast. NARS and Charlotte Tilbury were really, really fast. I was approved within 3 days. And they don't expire like some of the other ones. You just have to do it the one time. Patrick Ta also has a 30% discount. And then I will bring this on the nose and under the eyes and hit that right in those areas that tend to get dry around the nose. I will say if you start using these patches, I have gotten a couple faulty batches because they're from Amazon, so you have to kind of do them. If they aren't sticky on each side like this, send them back and get a new package. I've had 3 of them because they come in a pack of 100. So some of them they aren't sticky together. You want them to be pretty thin looking. And they don't want to be fully white. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you can see through them. The ones that are faulty, they don't put the sticky stuff on the back. So just a forewarning. So I stick this just right underneath the eye and pull this back here. Some people get a little claustrophobic with this on. I always ask them does that feel okay? Because some people get a little freaked out about things being on their face. Same thing with the face masks. I'm one of those people, I feel like someone's drowning me with the face mask on. So if there are any, I always just ask is this okay? Let me know. I don't want you to have a panic attack right now. So these can be a little bit too much for some people. And they stick really nicely, especially with the Magic Cream underneath. It just sticks everything, and this is going to help. These do have aloe on them, so they help stick everything together. If you don't want to do the sheet mask, like if that's just not something you're ready to offer, this is where I would do the massage with that. So, you know, you'll just massage the patches on, give them a nice one on the skin, and then do any skin products. Like if you want to do any dewdrops or anything like that, this is when you would do that and then kind of massage that in. And then I always do a lip mask as well. This is the Laneige lip mask. The pink candy one's the best. Okay. I just put a pretty thin layer. She doesn't have super chapped lips, so I just give her a little bit of a thin layer there. Some people need to go like exfoliate their lips. Sometimes, I'm sure you guys have all seen the crusty dustiness that you get and you're like, it's like chunking up. I don't use matte lipsticks anymore. I do the lipsticks. I don't use the liquid lips anymore. I have just found that I've seen photos of like 5-6 hours in and they have a lipstick butthole. And I think that it looks so bad. You know what I'm talking about? It looks worse than just having the lipstick not there. You know, I always try to kind of veer brides away from doing like a super bold lip because it's going to be all over them. It's going to be all over their husband. It's going to be on their dress somehow. People aren't paying attention. There's so much going on that if they go like this, it doesn't matter what matte lip you have, it's going to get everywhere. So try to just warn them about that if they choose to do a lip. But, you know, we can only warn, and if they choose to do it, they choose to do it. So I do this prep and let this prep sit. For her, I'm going to do a little bit of a glowier skin with that kind of like velvet look in the middle. So I'm going to add my skin prep, my like primers and my dewdrops after I'm done with her eyes, just so that's fresh underneath the skin. Because sometimes if it sits too long, it doesn't mix with the makeup very well, and then you kind of lost all that luminosity that you're trying to put into the skin. So for her, she has a nice strong brow. Brows can be a little bit tricky for people, especially if they're not typically used to filling their brows in. I have gotten to the point now where I used to say like everybody has to get a little bit of something in their brows, but some people just want a tinted gel. I love the Kosas Air Brow, and I started carrying these little spoolie guys. And I always put that on at the end to kind of pop the brows out from the makeup. That's definitely one of my favorite things, especially for people that aren't wanting a bold brow, but they need something. After you put all that makeup on, they need something there. So that's just a good way to go in between. This is just a little bit of alcohol on a cotton swab. I just go over the brows just to make sure that there's no extra skincare that's stuck under there that's going to get any of my powders or anything gunky. I'm just throwing that over there. Okay, so I use the Anastasia brow powders. I love these. These are like some of my favorite brow powders. And they're very convenient because you get 2 shades in one, which is very, very nice. I love to use a fan brush for my brows, especially if we're going for a little bit of a softer brow. It's a little bit more of like a dense fan brush. I love these ones that are a little slanted too, because they give you a little bit of ability to kind of press the powder in without overworking it into the brow. So I just start from the front. So with her brow, because she has a really good shape, I don't really need to add too much in the front. If I add them too much, they're going to give 2016 James Charles brows, and like we're not here for that anymore. If anybody saw my story of what the brow people did to me, did you see that?
I did, yeah.
I was like, first of all, how did she let me leave like that? She was like, do you like them? I was like, yes. I'm going to go home. But yeah, we're not doing that anymore. So I just kind of control this and fan it up just to give her a little bit of color. She doesn't really need a whole lot of color. I feel like she's got a pretty thick brow, but everybody's very different. Has anybody had to draw brows on from scratch on some moms before? I love using the Anastasia Brow Wiz. That's my favorite, like, from scratch eyebrow. Sometimes, too, if people just like those, like, super small strokes, that's what I will use as well. But I feel like the powder brow goes really well with the soft glam vibe. It's not too much, but it still gives them a little bit in there. Make sure I'm not flashing anyone. I also really like the fan brush because it can get that kind of crisp line underneath the brow without... I find that the angle brushes are so thick. I've found a couple that are really, really fine and thin, but the angle brushes can be very thick, and I feel like I don't have as much control over what my powder's doing and where it's going. I'm scaring you.
No.
And then when I'm done with brows, I always do the classic like makeup artist check where I stand like 20 feet away and check to make sure everything's even. So I'll always, they always make fun of me because I'm like, those look good, those look fine, everything looks great. So I will do brow. I always do a gel in everything, but I do the gel as like one of the very last steps just because we want to, again, like I said, pop those brows off of the skin. So now that she's here, I use for my eyeshadow base, ooh, did I just touch that? Did I mess it up? Okay. I use the Hourglass concealer as my shadow base. This is one of the best. I used to use Shape Tape. Shape Tape is great. This is kind of the highest coverage I've found to get a really flawless application underneath. The only thing that I hate so much about these is they get so dirty. Like, you can pull this in and out like 3 times and there is product all over. It sucks because I feel like you kind of waste a little bit of product. I've emailed them twice about it, so maybe they'll change it. But it's just, I always, like, after every like 2 or 3 jobs, I'll go through every single one. I just put an alcohol wipe under, screw it on, and it comes right off. But she is very fair, so I'm going to use shade Cotton and shade Birch. Birch has a little bit of a warmer tone because she's a little bit warmer, but she's on the fairer side, so we don't want to overwork any warm tones there. And I use the lightest shade as well and just do a pop of that warmer, kind of lighter shade as well. I really love these brushes. They finally came out, the Ariel, the double-ended brushes, the Morphe. They're my favorite for my eyeshadow bases. I like a longer brush. I know I found some on Amazon that are a little bit of the longer paddle brush, just because it gives me a little bit of a longer stroke underneath the brow. So close your eyes for me. Have you tilt your chin that way. And then I start in the middle, work my way out. I don't do a super thick layer. If you do a super thick layer, you're gonna kind of run into that really chalky eye look, and we don't necessarily want that. This gets thick really, really fast. The nice thing about this concealer though is you do have a little bit more working time than what like a Shape Tape would be. You get a little bit more of the creaminess of that underneath. So with her eyebrows, because they are a little bit thicker, I don't want to carve out a really prominent line under there because she has hair there, and it's going to just look like I concealed her hair and it's going to look weird. So I will take a big fluffy brush, and I love these Real Technique brushes. These are like some of my favorites. And I will just start to blend this down into her lid. Because I don't really want a super, super harsh line there, but I still want it to kind of clean the brow up. I don't really worry about getting concealer in the brows. We're going to we'll kind of touch up the brows at the end. We just want the shape to be there. I always have my brides look at the end of their eye look. So I want the brows to at least have the shape of what they're going to be like so that they kind of get the gist of what it's going to look like. Because you can't look at your eyeshadow without having your brows done. It's not going to look the same. So that's why I start with brows. These are actually on sale on Amazon right now for $5, just in case anybody wanted. But wait till Prime Day, because if you are a Prime member, you'll get even more discount, I'm sure. Okay, so I set this and then I will go in immediately after. Now, I know that we're all equally probably as heartbroken about the Givenchy powders. I send them several emails. I don't want to talk about it. They gave me very like political answers back. I was like, I need answers. Why have you done this to me? But I have switched to setting my eyes. So I will set the eyeshadow. So the Givenchy powder is a little bit too finely milled to set eyeshadow with. You still want it to be a little bit drier so that your shadows on top are going to go on super slick. I found with the finely milled powders, I don't know if you've ever felt like your eyeshadow kind of gets muddy and kind of slides together. If you set it with that super finely milled, it's not going to stick on top. So I've actually been using the Huda Beauty, the pound cake underneath. I also love the one size translucent. They're a little bit drier, but they still kind of blur everything and help everything kind of melt together. So I set that again with a super fluffy brush. Because I don't want to take away any of the stickiness, but I personally don't like blending things on top of an unset base, as I just feel like I can't get that super seamless blend.
You might have just said this. Is it the same fluffy brush?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just flipped the sides. You don't want to have, if you have too much, thank you so much.
You are.
Okay. And then always make sure I just spray this in between and just let it sit just to make sure that we're not putting anything on top. Okay, so the first step that I do when I'm going in is I'm going to take a bronzer. And that's what I'm going to start blending my shadows with. I love the NARS Laguna, the original Laguna and the Laguna 2 are definitely my favorites for like a bronzier base. I go in, and I'm just going to start blending that from the top down. I always pull it right into the nose here as well. We want that to be bright, but we don't want it to look super disconnected from everything when we do our nose contour there as well. When I started doing this, I can't remember what makeup artist I got this from. I was trying to remember the other day. This is going to blend everything really seamlessly into her skin. I feel like the eyes look much more connected when I put the same shade of bronzer that I'm going to put on her face on her eyes. And this is a Morphe M453. These are my favorite fluffy brushes because they have that kind of dual synthetic look. And they stay super domed and they don't flail out as you blend with them. Like these like MAC ones, they get like kind of fluffier. I feel like the Morphe ones, the synthetic ones, hold their shape a lot better. So I have made a little custom palette for myself. These are like my most used bridal shadows. This is the Patrick Ta, not the original palette, the second palette and the third palette. So the matte palette and then the pink palette. I use the cool shades in the matte. The cool one is great. I have so many because I have the Viseart ones. I don't really do a whole lot of super cool shadow looks, so I really only need one. I have to have 9,000 warm shades for some reason. So you know how that goes. The Patrick Ta eyeshadows, I think, blow the Mario shadows out of the water. I think they're really, really worth the investment. I honestly, out of all of the shadows that I've used, I use these the most. I also have a palette like this. This is my Viseart palette. It has a little bit more of the extra shadows that I want, but I also put the shelf liner in this top of all of my palettes. This has really helped me minimize on breaking things, especially because like if you've ever had a valet take stuff out, they like throw it like it's their job, and I've had a lot of things break. So the shelf liner really helps, especially in these palettes that have a little bit of room in between. So I'm gonna start with a little bit of, this is like one of my favorite shades. This is the Patrick Ta, this is the matte palette. This is the second shade in that. And I'm gonna just lay that on the outside. For her eye shape, open your eyes for me. She has an eye that's, I've told her this so many times, she has eyes that beg for winged liner. So I'm gonna kind of create a very like seamless look here with a little bit of brown shadow for her as well. So I'm just gonna start laying that down with my shadows. So I'll just pull this up and start blending that this way. Can everybody see okay? Okay. So I'm personally a work smarter, not harder type of gal, and I like to lay down quite a bit of shadow and blend it out. I'm not a light blender. I feel like it's easier to lay the shadow down than blend it, because sometimes you just end up blending it away and then you're wasting more time blending and blending on top of it. And then your shadows can start to get a little muddy within each other as well. Okay, so see how we've already started to get that shape there. I'm gonna go in with, I wish that he sold these in mini. Why do they do that? They have like such good like full palettes, but they don't sell anything. That's how I feel about these Mario shimmers. I'm like, I gotta email them too. I need them to sell these in like single shadows. But you know what? You never know unless you ask, I've found. Like sometimes they'll be like, we're working on it actually. I'm like, great, thank you so much. I'll go in with a little bit of a darker shade and I will just press that. This is the same brush. These are the like, you know, the MAC 217. I love those brushes. These are just like the Morphe knockoff of those. I'll take that on that same blending brush. And then I will just work outward inside, especially when I'm creating a wing. If you go like this, you're gonna concentrate that shadow where your hand's flicking off. So you want to just pull the shadow inward so that you can kind of control where the end of the eyeshadow is starting. I always start to kind of feather it right on the top. I don't personally do a really heavy on top, especially with how much room we have here. It's gonna feel a little bit too much for her if I pull this up too high. So I just wanna start feathering it. At the end, you can always make, you know, you can always add more. It's much more difficult to blend it away. Do we want to do a little bit more like a darker bronze, or do you guys want to see something a little lighter? A little darker? Yeah? So I kind of have everything mapped out now. I'm going to just add a little more right here. Okay, so I'm going to take now my darkest brown. This is going to be the darkest brown that I'm going to work with. I just tap that right on the edge of the brush. And I'm gonna just place this, turn your head this way, literally right where her lash line is, like where I'm gonna put liner. So I'm just gonna pop that right there so that that's kind of the deepest area, and see how it kind of creates like a really blown out blend. Do that on this side. Open. Okay, I'm gonna go back in with that brush that I did the bronzer with and just go over everything and just blend this into that lighter area. Okay, so when I'm doing a lighter look, I always will pop a little bit of concealer right in the front. I'm gonna do a little bit of that now just so that I have something to, everything to stick to. But when I'm doing like a full, you know, when I have that really bright looking eye, I always will take a little bit more of that concealer that I put on her lids. And I'm just gonna tap that right on the inside. That's why I love the shape of these brushes, is they get really close into this area. And I kind of create a new frontal lid area. And then I take these like smaller pencil fluffy brushes and I'm just gonna blend that into the other shadow. But we wanna leave a good amount of the lightness just so that the shadow is gonna have something to stick to. also am gonna be switching over to like just Morphe brushes, and I've actually experimenting with some brushes on Amazon that are much cheaper because we have to replace our brushes at least every year for the most part. There's been a couple in here that I've been able to save, but I used to be a Cinema Secrets only brush cleaner, shame on me, so I ruined a lot of my brushes that way. So now I'm a power wash girl. If anybody Dawn Power Wash, everything comes off. It's literally the best thing in the whole wide world to clean your brushes with. It comes off so quickly. I'll put them all in my sink and I'll just spray them down and I'll let it sit for like 5 minutes and it just all melts right off, and then I'll scrub them. It's the best thing in the whole world. Sidebar. Okay, so I'm going to use these are the Hourglass Scattered Light. They're like called pressed glitters, but they're not really glitters in my opinion. I've put everything into these little Z palette. They have these on Amazon too, and then they have a little sticker on the back, and they go into these. These are the tall, I don't know if it's Mio or MYO. I don't know, whichever one. And then I keep all of them here. These are airtight, so all of your creams will stay airtight in here. You can't put any that are like the oil-based creams are the only ones that you can put in there because they'll dry out and you won't be able to use them.
In my own palette, but that's not the
They have those, but they're way more expensive than the Z palette ones. The Z palette ones are way cheaper, and they also, I've seen a couple of them on Amazon. I haven't tried the Amazon ones, so I don't know how good they are, but the Z palette ones, I also get these on Friends Beauty, so you get them at a discount too. But these are even nice, like if you just want to throw them in like a little bag, because all of these come in those big glass containers. This saved me. I weighed it out. It was 4 pounds of glass containers versus this, and it's saved my back drastically. So these are a little difficult to put in. I just repress them in. They have a little bit of give to them, and they are a little bit squishy, like watery, so you can kind of press them in. But this is just the bronze shade. So I put this on with my finger. I always spray everything down and make sure that you have clean hands prior. But I'll put this on with my finger and I'll just tap this onto the front area. My nails are really long right now. I don't normally have really long nails, so this is much easier normally. But with these types of shadows, they don't look the same when you apply them with a brush. They kind of chunk up on the brush, and so the finger is the best way to kind of get everything to melt straight into the eye. These are some of my favorite shimmers besides the ones in the Mario Ethereal palette. The Hourglass ones, they're definitely worth the money. They're not cheap. They're like $32, but they last you a really long time, so they're worth the investment for sure. So I'll go back in though with a brush here and just go into this little area and then just blend it out so that you don't have any stark lines on anything. This is the Hourglass, the Scattered Light Pressed Glitters. They have a lot of shade options. They have really pretty like reflective ones that are like red and green. So if you are into doing makeup like that, they're really, really pretty. I just have the basic bridal shades. And I have them labeled HG bronze, and I always say hot girl bronze. I think it's funny. Okay, so now that we have that laid down, so you can see I love these because they're not glitters, but they're not like traditional shimmers. You know what I mean? I think they give a little bit more than a shimmer. I always top off my shimmers with a little bit of like an extra oomph. I love these Mario ones for that. They're the ones that come in the Ethereal palette. So I'll load that one up on my finger. Close your eyes for me. And I'll just tap that right over top of the shimmer and that to just kind of blend everything together, kind of right in the center of the eye. This is a little bit of a lighter shade than what we put on just to give it a little bit of lightness back into the eye. I always keep alcohol wipes handy too because I get everything on myself and all over my clothes and all over my face. So I use, I don't know if I went over this earlier, I think I forgot. I love using the back of my hand. I do a lot of cream products. It's not super sanitary. I know there's a lot of different things people say about using it on your skin. I like to use this because your skin will start getting real nasty after putting makeup and wiping it off and putting makeup on and wiping it off. I can wipe this off, and I use this for about 2 bridesmaids because I can kind of clean it off and disinfect it. But I will kind of switch them if I get them too dirty or if I put mascara on them. But this doesn't rip my hands up quite as much. I get them on Amazon. They're little, they have tiny ones. Some people prefer the tiny ones, but I like my whole hand to be covered. You get there's a lot of benefits to warming up products on the back of your hand, especially cream products, because if you're just putting them straight on, you're not getting the full effect of it. Because most cream products are made to be pushed onto the skin with the applicator. We can't do that, you know, so this is the best way to kind of simulate that. So do we want to do a black liner or do we want to do a brown liner? Who's feeling spicy? Yeah, my favorite thing. Okay, so I'm gonna go over how I sanitize my liners. So I will spray it with alcohol. I take an alcohol wipe. I've already sanitized this after, but I just re-sanitize everything just because I'm a little weird. So I'll go over it and I'll wipe everything down. Then I put it in my sharpener. Here. And then I'll spray it one more time. And then I'll wipe it again. Just gonna make sure that there's nothing that's touching it at all. And then wait a second, let the alcohol come off. I've been there, I've done it to myself before, and I've stabbed myself in the eye with alcohol and it's not fun. Okay, so close your eyes. So I'm gonna have her tilt her chin back just slightly. And what I tell people that have a little bit more hooded lids is I will have them raise their brows for me. So raise your eyebrows, and then I will go in and just start creating that while they have their eyebrows raised. So I just map out my wing, and you can just relax your eyebrows for me. So I'm gonna map out my wing that it's gonna pull her eyes up, but we're still having a little bit more of the extension out here. You wanna always make sure that you're looking at their eye shape and seeing what's gonna flatter their eyes, because if they have round eyes and you do it like this, they're not gonna see it because their eyelids are gonna close on top of that. You wanna kind of pull it out if they have more round eyes. She has a nice almond shape to her eyes, so we can kind of play around with either way. It's gonna look best if we pull it up and out that way. So close your eyes again for me. And then I'm gonna start, I like doing liner. This is the Mario Master Pencil and the dark brown. I don't use the back of this. I forgot to cut it off. I lost the cap, but I don't use the back of them. I always take the spoolies and stuff off because I don't know why I always go to use it on the back for some reason. So I just cut them off because I don't have no attention span. So I'm gonna start working this into her lash line. I don't like to put down a super thick layer of this. I like to build this up by starting at the base of the lashes and pulling it into that wing that we've built. Okay, open for me. So I'm gonna kind of keep everything towards the outer end of her eyes. I'm not gonna put too much in the middle just because, open your eyes for me. Open. See how she doesn't have a whole lot of space when her eyes are open? We don't want to take that real estate, especially for bridal. We want their eyes to look as bright as possible. So we don't necessarily need to take too much of this up with liner. We just need to put enough liner that the lashes are going to blend into her eyelashes. Close your eyes for me. So I take the side of my pencil and I just push it into her lash. And I let this dry. I will go over and blend on top of it to create a smokiness afterwards. I find sometimes if you blend it out too much, that the stickiness of it doesn't stay. Like the long wearing sharpness of the pencil kind of goes away if you blend it too much. I'll let this dry and then I'll go in with a shadow that's the same shade on top to create a little bit more of a blend with the liner and the shadow together. Seriously. Does anyone in here struggle with getting their wings even? Raise your brows for me. So your eyes are going to be sisters, not twins. They're never going to look exactly alike. But the best way that I have found to get my wings, work in those super thin strokes. If you're going to go in, you're really solidifying yourself, you got to be real sure if you go straight in with it. I go a little bit and I'm going to step back and check it. I'm going to step back and check that they look even. Okay, they look even to me. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to deepen that up a little bit. You can always, like I said, we're going in with a shadow, so we have a little bit more to play with than if we're doing like a black gel wing liner. You're going to hold your breath and you're going to pray for the best, you know. That's kind of the best way to do it. Having them raise their eyebrows is one of the best things for doing winged liner because this naturally is going to want to go like this. Sometimes I'll even tell them to tilt their chin back and fight against me with their eyelids. So they'll kind of pull their eyelids taut and kind of sit back. That's the best way that you can get the skin tight without pulling on their eye too much, especially when you have like a little bit more mature eyes. Sometimes, you know, especially on the outside, if you're trying to blend into there, you're kind of pulling the skin apart. If you have them do that, and pull the skin slightly, you'll be able to get in there a little bit easier, and it's a little bit more comfortable than you like opening up their eyes like that. Same thing. I'm gonna run this all the way to like the front of her eye, but just right against that lash line. Open your eyes for me. Perfect. Okay, same thing. We're done with this, so I'm gonna spray it with alcohol. Wipe it down with my alcohol wipe. Always get the bottom. Well, I just took the whole top of it off, which I tend to do most of the time, is I'll just break the whole top of it off and then I'll just resharpen it when I'm ready to use it again. Sometimes, you know, when you're in a rush too, you don't pay attention to it. So this like lets me know I have to sanitize this and I have to resharpen it anyway. So sometimes I do this, sometimes I don't. I most of the time accidentally break it off. So cap it, put it back. And I'm gonna buy the Etoile kit. Because they have the better. Does anyone have a similar kit where they lose their eyeshadow pencils literally in everything? I've decided I'm going to buy it, but they're coming out with that new other bag, so I'm waiting till they come out with that to buy the whole thing together because I'm getting free shipping. Okay, I'm going to take a new clean brush and then I'm going to go back in with those Patrick Ta shadows. I'm going to take that deep color, and then I'm actually going to take a teeny bit of black shadow, and I'm going to mix these together. Close your eyes for me. I'm going to just really lightly run that over top of the winged liner that we just did to just buff everything together. So tilt your head that way for me. So see how it just kind of blends everything super nicely, but you still have the look of the wing, and it's not gone yet, you know? I think taking a teeny little weensy bit of a black shadow and putting it right in the outer corner here, still a wing, but we're putting black lashes on. So we don't necessarily, I personally think that the eyes look hollow if you don't have a little bit of depth where you put the lashes. You know what I mean when I say hollow? Like you can kind of see the lashes through, nothing's blending seamlessly. That's like my biggest pet peeve in the world is seeing things through the lashes. So I try to make everything as dark as possible on the lash line so that everything is going to blend really nicely. Like, can you guys see the difference in the eyes? There. Like, open your eyes for me and look straight at them. Close your eyes for me. Okay. So who uses strip lashes? Is everyone? Yeah.
What kind of brush is that?
This is the same. The Morphe number is M456. It's the same one that I used to build on the outer, but you can see this is the old one. This was from like 2 years ago, and then they've made them a little bit smaller. So they're the same brush, but they're just a little smaller than each other. Okay, who uses strip lashes and who uses? Everyone uses strip lashes, or you do both?
Use just clusters.
Just clusters. I switched completely over to clusters because I know that everybody's like, it takes a little bit to get the speed on. I can put these on now faster than I can put a strip lash on. They're faster, they're easier, they don't pop up, they don't make your eye, like if you cry, the odds of you, some people are like raw, harsh criers, you know, they squeeze their eyes. Their lashing, it's not going to stay. It's gone. It's out of there. So these, they're only losing 1 or 2. They still look good all night, and they're way more comfortable, especially for people that don't wear lashes. I've had a lot more success with these also in the blending area. I think they look a little bit more natural too. So I always tell everyone to just start experimenting with them. Do them on bridesmaids. You know, you have a little bit of extra time. You're like, you know what? I'm going to mess around with my cluster lashes. If you have a little bit of time, play with them on your friends. Just kind of get them to get to know each other. You'll get much faster at it as you go.
We'll also give a little hint to you for that. As someone who also does wedding photography, the consensus is we love when makeup artists don't use a strip lash, because that is actually what we get the most in close-up pictures. They're like, is there a way for you to edit out my lashes?
Popping up. Yep. I have had so many people be much more comfortable after also with these. Like, they can cry, they can move around, they're not like worried about it popping up. I now hate wearing strip lashes. I don't even wear strip lashes anymore. I do like I have these like longer clusters. When I'm in a rush, these are nice. But I like to, with my brides, I put on they're like clusters. I have thick clusters and I have natural clusters. I use this is the Super Stay. It's the Eye Envy Super Stay. This is the dark. I have the dark and the light. It is the best glue I've ever used. I don't use latex glue. I have had an incident. She didn't know she was allergic to latex and she found out. And it was really not fun for me or her. I was crying too. Like, I don't know why I'm crying, but... So I love these little tweezers. I got these little tweezers on Amazon. They are the Miss Queen tweezers on Amazon. I always clean these before and after, but these can tend to get a little bit of glue on them when I'm doing them, and nothing is going to piss you off more than the lash sticking to the tweezer. It makes you want to just like rage quit. We've all been there. Or like it gets stuck to like their face. I'm like, sorry, hold on. Okay, so I start out, I use Amazon cluster lashes. They are the most consistent that I found. They're way cheaper than the Ardells. I could go through like $500 of Ardell lashes in a month. I can pay, these are like $10 a pack for, I think it's 100 clusters. So worth it, and they're super, super high quality. I have like the whole thing. I have an Amazon storefront in my Instagram, and I have all of them on there too. I normally am gonna do 12 millimeter. She could do a little bit more in the outer corner, but we're just gonna start a little bit more conservative with her. So I'm gonna just pull them off. I place them on the back of my sheet here, and I put a little bit of glue on the back of my hand. I let it dry a little bit, because if it's too wet, you're gonna have a hard time with them sticking to the lash. Look down at the floor for me. So I'm gonna have her, I always just have them look down at the floor. I don't have them close their eyes. If you close their eyes, you're not gonna see where their true lash line is. And then you just start the painstaking process of putting them on one by one. While I'm doing this, does anybody have questions about eyelash application? You can just, I can't look at you, but you can just say it out loud if you want.
So you're using 12 millimeter for both of those. So you just pull.
Yes, so yes, these are 12 millimeter. I do 4 to 5 because she has a longer lash line. I'm gonna do 5 of them on the outer corner, and then I'm gonna move to 11s, and then I'm gonna move to 10s, and then I always put little 8 ones in the front.
So you do the full lash line?
Yes, exactly. Some people prefer it just being on the outside. I always do that with client preference. client preference, but my client doesn't get a preference today. So she's doing what I want.
So you do 8 in the corner, 12 on the end, and all the ways in the middle?
So 12, 11, 10, 8.
You said you do 4 to 5. That's total, or is that?
4 to 5 in the outer corner. It depends on their eye shape. She has a longer lash line, so I'm going to have to use a little bit more just to cover it. But it really depends on if they have a shorter lash line or not. I just put them, like, basically the longer ones, I go to where I've kind of stopped the wing. So open your eyes for me. So this is 3 here. So I see how the wing is starting to get a little bit smaller here. That's when I'm going to start. So I've already done 3 lashes. So I'll probably do 2 more just to kind of get that pop in the middle, and then we'll have them go smaller towards the middle of her eye.
If they have straight lashes, you can curl their lashes before you put these on.
Yes, for sure. I also have this little guy. He is a mini curler. I'll show you in just a second. I will curl them into the lashes after my mascara. Sometimes the straight lashes, you got to put waterproof mascara and you got to curl them twice. Sometimes I feel like it doesn't even matter if you curl them before. Like, I'll just curl them after and stick everything together with the glue. I have actually had people where I have put a little bit of lash glue on their eyelashes and stuck them too, because they just will fall constantly, you know, and then they'll get in their eyes. Those will move and it becomes like a whole mess. And you don't really need a whole lot of glue for these. I just wiggle them into the lash line there. And I do both eyes at the same time. So I will go over now with the 12 millimeter on the other side, and I'll do those, and then I'll go through with the 10s as well after. These are these are like my thicker cluster lashes. I'll show you what the natural ones look like. Just a second. But these have a little bit of a curl. These are a D-curl. I don't know if you can see this. You probably can. They give the lash enough of a curl to sit inside of the lash line, so that they're not sticking straight out. Okay, so we did 5 of the 12s.
So the glue on your hand is still working?
Yes, it isn't now anymore though. So I only put enough to do it section by section. You want to get fresh glue anyway, because it dries pretty quickly. So then you're like, you got chunky glue, and then that's not fun. And just working with that, I will just get another new section of glue.
So you do 4 to 5 clusters of each length?
Yes.
Okay.
Depending on their eye shape. So she has a long lash line. So, hey, did you know you have a long lash line? You're super fun. So I'll make sure to do that. I also, as they're drying, am kind of just gonna lift them up to make sure that they're sitting exactly where I want as they dry. Open up for me. So I'll have her open and check. So I like where this lash is kind of stopping, like right in the middle here. So look down for me. So now I'm gonna take, they're 40 D curl and they're 10 millimeters.
Do you ever change the length based off of the person's eye shape? Like, I know sometimes people will lash longer in the middle to kind of amplify a person's eye shape. Do you ever really do that?
Yeah, it honestly is also coming down to the type of look that they want to go for too. If they want a little bit of a rounder eye look, you're going to put them a little bit longer in the middle, because that's going to kind of elongate the eye. If they want a little bit, typically most people are going to want the wing, so you want to start, to give them the cat eye. The lashes, some people want the lashes to be the star of the show. So I have longer ones here, but we're trying to just accentuate our eye makeup with lashes. We're trying to have everything kind of work together, especially with soft glam, because we don't really necessarily want anything to stick out too much. That's the whole meaning of soft glam, is that everything is kind of subtle, but you still look like you have makeup on.
Do you like D curl over like C, or do you kind of mix it?
Okay, I love D-curl. I find that they're not too curly because sometimes the C curls are a little bit too much and they sit up a little bit too much. I'd rather curl them up as I need than having to kind of, because they feel like they sit upwards into the eye, especially if you have a little bit more hooded eye. The C curl just does not work well. I think the D curl is a little bit more of a relaxed, like, curl this way than the C curl. I have a couple of C curls and I just don't like them. I don't tend to reach for them as much as this. Okay, look down again for me.
I'm not as familiar with the application of clusters. Do you overlap them at all, or is it literally just one that tucking in there?
So I touch them together. I leave a little bit of space just because it looks a little bit more natural. But these have the band. You can see the tiny band, so I'll touch them as close as possible. I will go over, so I'll show you at the end. I'm gonna go over and just add a little bit more, so I will pop like 2 14s on the edge of hers, and I'll just kind of pull them on top of each other so that they pull up, but they're not that's not the most important lash, you know what I mean? They're like accessories to the lash. Are you getting a breeze? So I'm actually only going to do 2 10 millimeters on her eyes. Open for me. Yeah. Look down for me. Yeah, I'm going to do 2 10s. And then I'm going to do it in 8. So I actually have found, let me get a little more glue. 8 millimeter lashes have been really, really helpful. They are much thinner, but they are probably one of my most used cluster lash, which I didn't originally pay any attention to them or buy them for a really long time because I was like, they're so tiny. Like, what am I even going to do with those? Well, when you're blending individual lashes, they come in so handy. So open your eyes for me. So if I just leave the gaps there, it's very open. You know what I mean? The eyes are super, super open, and I feel like the lashes aren't going to blend. Even if you put mascara on, some people have super short lashes. So when you put this like 10 millimeter lash in the middle, it goes from 10 to nothing. And it's not really super blendable. So I love, these are just 8 millimeter. These are D-curl 8 millimeter. They are, I think it's 20. It's like a 20D 8 millimeter. And then I take this, but they're so little. And I'm gonna have you open your eyes, look down. And I pop these right in the center here. I will say too, individual lashes, open your eyes for me. So see how much more blended that looks than having that space. I feel like it's just something that adds the extra blend to the lashes. I am like my biggest pet peeve is being able to see spaces and having unblended lashes. That's why I can't stand, like, that's the first thing I look at when I see makeup photos is I'm like, all I can see is how chunky her lashes look. I feel like these just look much more natural on anything, and they blend right into your mascara super easily too.
What is the cases you have in your lashes? I feel like I struggle to find cases that put lashes in.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. So I actually, sorry, I need to get a little more glue. These are actually those little photo boxes. I take all of these lashes because they come in little plastic cases. I just take my spatula because I just kind of bulk order them, and I'll just sit there for like 20 minutes and I will pop them all out, and I put index cards because they're a little bit thin. I put index cards on the back of like the sticky thing, and I sit them there. So that saves me a lot of space. And I cut up every single thing that I can. The more space that I can save, the better. I have a rule. I don't carry more than this. I have a bag that has my lights and that carries my brushes, and that's it. I find that this keeps me from buying a bunch of stuff that I don't really need, but it also keeps me much more organized, you know, and it's forced me to kind of create a little bit, you know, get creative with like packaging and things because lashes take up so much room.
It's like a So it's like photo bomb.
I got them at Hobby Lobby, I think. Look down for me. Hobby Lobby, I've had them for a long time. Amazon definitely has them. Amazon has everything. Okay, so I kind of separate them by, I have natural clusters and, yeah, of course. I have natural clusters, and then I call these are my thick individuals and my natural individuals. I carry 10, 8, 12, 14, and 16. 16 is typically going to be the most that I end up using because those are pretty long for people that have normal eyes. And then I have the thicker ones. I feel like with the style of makeup that I do, I tend to use the thick ones a little bit more, but I do have these if someone's looking for like a super, super soft look. And then I'm sure you clean everything on. Yeah, does anyone have a question right now while we're waiting?
Would you ever, like, I know it's really hard sometimes to apply any kind of false lash to the lash lift. Are these easier to apply to a lash lift than a strip?
No. Oh my gosh. That's like the bane of my existence. You cannot, I tell them no. You can't. You end up getting glue caked in their eyelashes. The eyelashes are sitting inside of their eye. I put in my bridal stuff, please don't get a lash lift. When I talk to them on the phone, and I'm kind of going over everything with my brides, do not get a lash lift. It's not, they look cute, but if they are done wrong, they end up having their eyelashes inside of their eyelid. And the curl is too much and you can't do anything about it. You know, you can't uncurl them. I just had a bridesmaid the other day. I was like, I'm sorry, girl. Like, I can't. I tried so hard. I was like holding her eyelashes down and trying to stick them on, but they just kept flinging back. And so sometimes like, there's just nothing that you can do about it. You know, you're like, sorry, girl. Like, but I wish that people that do the lash lifts would tell them. Like, I wish they would say like, hey, like you can't put false lashes on top of these. It's the same reason I don't recommend people doing, slash like the extensions that stay on. Those are really hard to do makeup on top of, and sometimes they have like 4 of them on. I'm like, what am I'm gonna have to put lashes over top of these, girl. You know what I mean? Like, you look crazy. I always will take a spoolie with some Bioderma on it and just kind of run it through, but you don't want to put anything with oil in it, obviously. She's back.
Thank you. Eyelash curler thing.
Yeah, I'm scared of that.
I'm not sure that
I think it's
just give me one second. She's like, it scared me. So
do you want
it
it?
scares me.
I'm like, yeah, I don't want that. If they're like jumpy, I won't even do it. If they want them curled, I'll do it. I would say like 75% of the time, I don't even have to curl their lashes. So
Mirror and the curl themselves, like
yeah, here you go.
Goodbye. So I will curl their own. I will have them in the mirror.
It's not worth it. I hope everybody has insurance too. Always.
Sorry.
Always make sure, even if you're working for other companies, just get beauty insurance. It's not worth it. People are crazy. You know, something can go wrong and then you're going to get blamed for it, and you'd rather have insurance. Also, pay the money to have an LLC. It's worth the money, because if something happens, even if you're like, if you're just doing makeup on your friend, if you stab them in the eye, they can come after everything that you have. Separate yourself and your business. It's worth the time. It's worth the money, because you just never know. You never know, and it's not, you would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Also, health insurance. Same goes for health insurance. Look down for me. Okay, so Bioderma on my Q-tip. I love the little Q-tips. These are my baby Q-tips. So these are like, feel like are so fat compared. That's not a good Q-tip example. I'm so sorry. Compared to, I love this skinny, tiny little Q-tips. I get them from Kit Pack. I am a Kit Pack snob. I love the Kit Pack system. It is super affordable, and I feel like it keeps me super, super organized. But they sell these, I think Artist Kit Company also sells very similar ones as well. So I just throw them in my order. I order like 5 or 6 of them at a time, and I end up needing them anytime that I'm going to place an unnecessary order anyway. So look down for me. So I'm going to just follow along the wing and just clean that up where I have any remaining shadow. I apply a teeny little bit of pressure, but not too much. And then I just I'll have a little bit on the edge of my finger and I'll just kind of blend that out. So look that way for me. So see how it creates a really, really sharp wing for us to lay our concealer down. Look up for me. And then with the other side of that, I'm gonna go in here, get anything else that's left over. But having those shadow shields down it makes a really big difference because you're not having to take any skin prep off also after you're done. Same thing. Bioderma. That's kind of the only makeup remover I use. I do have the a little bit of the Makeup Forever, that blue one, that's like the oil-based one. I don't use that one very often. I just prefer non-oil-based stuff because I don't really use a whole lot of waterproof stuff. But when it comes to like gel liners, I actually will remove it with an oil. I keep like a vitamin E oil in my kit, and sometimes that's even easier than smudging everything around with makeup remover. Okay, look up for me. So I'm just gonna kind of clean everything up now. Okay, so now we're at this stage. We have our eye pretty much built out. I always, at this point, I'm gonna show them a mirror. I tell them, you don't have any mascara on, I'm just gonna show you your eyes. When this is complete, if they hate something, it's a lot easier to change it here than it is if you're done with your skin. Because once the powders and things go on, it's game over from there. So I always am gonna ask, if you hate something, tell me right now and I can fix it. I'd rather fix it now than have to fix it way later and everything. So now I am going to finish up my skin prep. So I'm going to use the Watermelon Dewdrops. These are the bronze Watermelon Dewdrops. These are one of my favorite things to go under makeup. I just use a little bit of these. And then I'm going to put this all over her face. I focus it really mainly on the top of the cheekbones and on her nose. And then just kind of spread it all over. I keep forgetting this is there. I'm like, what is that? Sorry? Yeah, it's the Glow Recipe, thank you. And then, you know, just make sure you're avoiding the eyebrow area. I like these because they give a super slight tint to the skin, but it's not too bronzy, you know what I mean? It's gonna give, especially because she's fair, we're gonna put pretty light products on top, so it gives you a little bit of a base to work with. So I'm now gonna give her like a little feel up, just to make sure that there's no like big chunks of any skincare or anything left before I start putting my base on. Was there any questions that anybody had about eyes as we're doing this?
So under eye prep is good. Once you take those off, you don't have to reapply any eye cream.
No, that's why it kind of sinks in with those patches. That's why I do that, so that it's nice, and because sometimes if you apply it right over top, your concealer is going to mix with your eye cream. So with this, I always say underneath the eyes, you want to have a super slight like tacky feeling. You never want it to feel slick. That's when it's going to start creasing up. It's going to get weird, and your powder is going to stick in different areas too. So just make sure you kind of tap. That's why I'm a big believer in using your hands. You can't, I've seen some makeup artists that use gloves. I don't know how they do that. I mean, more power to them, but I can't do it. I like to feel the skin. You're only going to be able to see if something's dried, if something feels weird or something feels off, you know, like there's been times where I'm like, oh, this is creating like a weird mixture of something. I'm able to touch it and take care of it before because when you put foundation on is when you really see it. You're like, ooh, this is their skincare is peeling, everything's peeling off. It's not a good vibe. I know some people are really into primers. I'm not really a primer person. I think focusing on skin prep is going to make your makeup look way better than any primer ever will. I think it's just personal preference with how you choose to do your skin. So I'm going to do a pretty light base with her. I'm not going to do anything super, super heavy. So I'm just going to do kind of like my classic, like soft glam, like velvet skin. So I love the Mario sticks, the contour sticks. I depot them into the little Viseart palette. I'm going to take the light and a teeny little bit of the medium because she's pretty fair, so we don't want to over bronze her. I start to work this on my hand with my spatula just to kind of get it super warmed up. You can kind of see that it will start to change texture. I spread it out a little bit thinner. These are my favorite brushes in the whole entire world. These are the Mario, the dual-ended. It's the F4 brush. I have 15 of these. I love them. They are definitely one of the best skin brushes that I've ever had. I have really switched over to, a lot of my brushes have this shape. I think it's much easier to blend and you can create a super flawless base with this type of brush. So I'm going to dip just the corner. I don't get anything on the top, so I'm just dipping the corner into this. And then I'm going to go on the other side and just take any excess product off. And I'm going to start underneath her cheekbones, and I'm just going to start lightly building this up. She doesn't need a whole lot of coverage, so what we're really going to focus on is working underneath everything so that she has that really pretty glow within underneath. We're going to put a lot of work into our underpainting first. If you're doing a super thick foundation, like I know you see those people that underpaint that like, when you're doing a super thick foundation, it doesn't really matter because all of that's going to get blended out for the most part. I like to go a little bit softer and I work around this when it comes to skin. But that's just my preference.
Perfect cheekbones.
Yeah, she's like God's favorite. It's really dumb. little me. We did a photo shoot together.
It was so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but then when you look at the photos and then you look at her and then I'm like, damn. Also, I'm just an awkward fish and she's not, you know, she's an actual professional model. So she does do this for money. So, you know, it makes more sense. And then I really get into the hairline. Some of your hairstylists might hate you for this, but I'm my own hairstylist, so it doesn't matter. But I will lift up the hair and really blend. Nothing is uglier than having that weird space in the hairline. So I will just really blend that stick foundation or bronzer stick in like that. So I do a pretty heavy underpainting. Why are you looking?
Sorry.
Okay, so I do a pretty heavy underpainting, so you can kind of see how the bronze is on the outside of her face. I don't focus anything too far inside, but I give the cheeks a pretty good bronzing so that they pop off of the skin, because we're going to go over top of our foundation and sculpt this even more. So I'm going to take a little bit more of just the light shade of the Mario. And I'm going to add a little bit more. And I'm going to do a fluffy brush and I'm going to underpaint her nose contour as well. And I'm going to bring this into the brows as well. I am going to shape most of her nose with the concealer. So I like to do a pretty buffed out contour and then go in and shape it with everything else. And then we'll put powder on top of this as well, so it'll get a little bit more shapely too. I'm not personally a huge fan of a super sharp nose contour. I know there's some brides that prefer it. It looks like you have a nose contour on for the most part. It's pretty hard to make that look natural when you have that like really skinny nose. So if you're doing a full glam, it will look great, but with a more natural skin, having that super sharp nose contour isn't really going to do much for her. So I also now will take the Rare Beauty blushes. I love underpainting with them. They all have different, they have matte ones, they have the glowy ones. I use both of them underneath foundation and I've never had a problem with either. One of my favorite shades of the Rare Beauty blush is Happy. It's a pretty classic color, pretty classic blush color. And then I'm going to take that same brush. I'm just going to wipe any of the bronzer off. And then I'm going to pat that on. I love these clear, this is an Artist Kit Company, just clear acrylic powder palette. And then I make sure that I get as much evenly distributed on the brush as possible. So just like that. And then I start applying this to the apples and working up. For her, with her bone structure, she has really beautiful apples of her cheeks, so she can handle quite a bit of blush there. If you don't have any like a super high bone structure, you want to kind of focus the blush a little bit higher up. But her bone structure can handle it, so we're going to do it. If I can do a blush moment, I'm going to do a blush moment. So I just kind of start to work this on. I try not to let them look at this stage because it doesn't really look super cute, but get all happy over here. What foundations do you guys use?
Cover effects.
The cream or the liquid?
We use something like this. That's my right eye. I like the NARS. Right
Yes, I love the Dior Backstage, but she's a thick girl. She's a thick girl for me, and I'm scared of thick foundations for some reason. Okay, so I love the NARS. I use the NARS Light Reflecting and the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk. I have both of them. I also have the Dior Face and Body that's a little bit lighter. And then I use the NARS Soft Matte as like, if we're going like full glam, we want super, super like high coverage. That's one of my favorites. Those are just the ones that I keep on like a regular basis. I also do have my RCMA creams. If we're looking for like real thick coverage, I also will use those as well. I'm going to do the NARS Light Reflecting on her. The biggest difference I see between the Light Reflecting and the Luminous Silk, they're very similar. The Light Reflecting is a little bit higher coverage than the Luminous Silk. So if you're wanting to go between, I would probably, the Luminous Silk is very expensive. The Light Reflecting NARS does have a discount. They're extremely similar. The finish of them is very similar. Like I could put one on one side and you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So for her,
was some from like the most sheer to like the most.
so the Dior is going to be the most sheer coverage. With any of them, you can sheer any of them out. They're relatively thin. The Dior is going to be the thinnest. The Luminous Silk is going to probably be the second one that is a little bit less. The Light Reflecting is going to be more towards a medium coverage than anything. And then the, I say the RCMA and the Soft Matte are going to be the most high coverage. Okay, so on her, I'm going to do the NARS Light Reflecting. I'm going to do L0. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that down. And then I'm going to add a little bit of L4. L4 is one of my favorite shades for my light to medium girls. I feel like when I mix it in with anything, it definitely gives it a really pretty undertone. But you don't want to put straight, like, if I were to put just the straight L1 on her, it's like super, yeah. It's super light. So we want to add a teeny bit in that's going to give her a little bit of the undertone. Kind of blend everything together a bit.
What were the shade names again?
It's L4 and L1. They have like really long shade names, but on the bottom, like when you go to buy them, it will show you, it'll like say L4 and then it'll have this like ridiculously long shade name that I'm not going to put on the bottom of this tiny bottle.
Do these shade adjusters like move the lights together?
I don't typically use them too much. I don't really have time to be like messing around with that for the most part. I think it's really important for you to know what shades that you have and how to properly mix them. Knowing exactly what undertones you need and what you don't need. And that just kind of comes with time and like knowing what you have in your kit too. But you can always adjust, like Your foundation isn't the end all be all. When you put powder on top and bronzer on top, you're able to kind of blend everything together. So it doesn't have to be like a full, like undetectable match every time. I mean, you have to match, but you know what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be completely perfect because you're going to adjust with your concealer. You're going to adjust with your bronzer. So you're able to do that. Oh, hold on. Let me take that off of your neck. Fine.
I know we won't touch it with her, but I feel like my lighter shades, I'm good at, like, what is your deepest shade that you keep in the lens?
I keep the deepest shade that they have. So I have the last two. I have the medium deep 5 and then the deep 7. Those are I don't get like a whole super wide variety of darker skin. I always have them. You make sure you know how to do them, but a lot of my clientele isn't. But I always make sure that I have as many shades as I possibly can and know how to mix them. With deeper skin tones, you have to watch out for those red shades. They can get really gray and really red really fast. NARS is has one of the better shade ranges. They don't have those like crazy undertones. I feel like I typically carry one cool, one warm, and then one right in the middle so that I can kind of mix and adjust them either way. Especially you have to be so careful with deeper skin tones because I've seen some foundations, you swipe it on and you're like, why is that orange? Why is that red? So you have to just be a little bit more careful when it comes to those. But I feel like NARS and Giorgio Armani have a way better, deeper. I don't know why we can't just have like nice deep shade ranges for people. They're either like super, or they don't carry them. They're like, here are your 2 shades. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, I can't carry that in my kit. The Dior Backstage also has really nice neutral and warm shades for deeper skin tones as well. Yes.
That's why I asked, because I got one and the second I put it on, I was like, wow, she looks like a brick wall. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, I sometimes too, what I'll do is I'll go to Sephora and I'll shade them and I'll take a photo of them and then I order it online because I get the discount. So that way you can kind of see, because sometimes the one online, not helpful at all. I'm like, that's not even a little bit what this looks like. So tilt your chin that way for me.
Like that one blush that was recently released that was something like the online.
The YSL blush?
Yeah.
Shame on them.
Blush. Oh, yeah.
I'm glad they're coming after him for that though. So I start at the jawline and I'm going to work my way up. I keep a good amount of product on my palette here and then I just work with little bits of product at a time and I just build up. So what I'm going to do, that way, is I'm going to start sharpening this line up, but I'm not going to go completely over it with foundation because we're just going to lose that. So I'm just going to start kind of properly blending this up into that contour shade. Make sure we don't forget the ears and the back of the neck. Same thing. So I do the whole bottom of the face and then work my way up. So I'm going to go to the other side. But this is, see how what I'm talking about? Like this area of her neck is always going to be lighter. You're not going to match to here. You want to match to here because you're most of the time going to bring the makeup all the way down to her chest. Okay, same thing. Make sure we're getting the ears and the back of the ear. And then we're just starting to take, once you've kind of blended a good amount of it, whatever's left on the brush, see how it just kind of starts to melt that into the foundation. Pick up a little more. Okay, go into the chin. I typically don't use my foundation as like end all be all for coverage. My concealer, I do a lot more coverage wise and sculpting with my concealer than my foundation. I use the foundation as kind of like my skin prep because I am going to do more of the sculpting with my concealer and then my powders afterwards. This brush is super nice because it's dense, but it's not too dense where you're having to like push it in. It very effortlessly blends the foundation into the creams as well. Make sure you get into their nose crevices also, all the crevices. And then I'm just gonna kind of start creating the shape, you can relax now, of my blush and foundation. So I wanna just start kind of covering up that blush here. And then I'm gonna take a little bit that's left over on the palette, look up for me, and I'm gonna just tap that right over top here. So see how we've still can see all of that work that we did, but it's very light and looks underneath. We're gonna redefine that with powder later, but you have something underneath. This is what's gonna help make everything last a little bit longer as well, because you have layers of the color underneath. So as that powder starts to fade, you're still gonna have the pop of all of the cream underneath everything.
Foundations and skin prep, do you ever run into issues with like the silicone versus water-based products?
Yeah, so most of the stuff that I use water-based. I just prefer that. I think like some of the silicone stuff is a little bit thick for just the style of makeup that I do, but that's why I don't use primers, because you don't want to find out on a wedding day. You don't want to put like, oh, I put this new in my kit, and then you're like, uh-oh, that's sliding all over the place. Or a bride tell you, hey, my foundation completely slid off my face, you know? So just know what you have. I just think primers are just not necessarily good for like every day, unless you're using a pore filler, things like that. That's definitely useful, but I think the silicone primers can be a little bit more detrimental than they are helpful. Okay, so now that we have our base on, I'm just gonna do a little teeny bit of this on her chest as well, just to kind of blend everything together. Just whatever's left over on my brush. I'm not doing anything too crazy. She doesn't have any like crazy discoloration or anything, so we don't really need to do this for coverage. I just like to even everything out. So then I'm gonna go in with my Hourglass concealer. This is my favorite concealer for under the eyes. I'm doing the same shade, so I'm doing a teeny bit of oat, just to have a little bit of warmth in there, and then a little bit of cotton. And then one more, I'm gonna do birch. So I'm going to go in, I do 2 brushes, so I'm gonna use that original brush that I laid down the concealer with on the lid. I'm gonna warm this up, mix all those together. Look up for me. I'm gonna start right on the inside of the under eye, and I'm gonna pull down. I wanna start to create a little bit of lightness down this way, and I'm gonna turn my brush this way and just tap that. I'm not doing anything too crazy with her under eyes. I'm not gonna do like a super bright under eye. I'm going a little bit more natural with it. And I'm just gonna add that underneath. When I get to her wing here, I'm gonna do a pretty good swipe of concealer here and pull that up. I don't like taking it too far into this, the blush. And then I take, this is like a kind of a mini version of the foundation brush. I'm gonna take a little bit of concealer on that, and then I'm just gonna start to blend that outer edge in. We don't wanna take away, because here is where we want the most coverage, right underneath the eye where all of the darkness is. That's where we wanna leave most of the coverage. So we just wanna really lightly blend that into her under eye and then blend those outer edges out. And the same thing when we get up to the wing. Want to leave that there because I like to create a super sharp wing, and then blend that into the blush. I'm going to go back in with the foundation brush that already has a little bit of that foundation on, and I'm just going to pounce that just to blend everything together there. So it gives her a nice bright look, but it still hasn't disturbed anything underneath what we've already done. And a little more.
I'm realizing again. What brush did you use to blend out the flicker dense one? It was like a foundation brush.
Yeah, so this is an Amazon blush. It's called, I keep saying blush for some reason. It's called Energy 274. I have it in my storefront too. These are like $4 and they're so nice. I love them. Look up here.
Can you talk about
the amount of product you have in your brush? So do you try to use a moderate amount or amount?
I use a pretty good amount of concealer. Like I said, my concealer is going to be kind of most of the coverage that I'm getting. So I use a pretty good amount. I do it in layers though. It really depends on what my client's asking for also. If they're wanting a little bit more of a full coverage on their skin, I'm going to do a little bit more concealer. But since we're doing something like a little bit more on the natural side here, we don't necessarily want to have super full coverage in the center. We still want to be able to kind of see her skin through a little bit. This is a very heavy concealer. It is not for the weak. If you're looking for something that is a little bit more medium coverage, the NARS Creamy Radiant Concealer is really pretty. I will say that one is going to move around a little bit more than this. This guy he's a bulletproof concealer. It does not move. It will not crease. I mean, I say it won't crease. Everybody's under eyes are gonna crease. You're a human being and you're moving. Your makeup's not gonna stay, you know? Anybody that tells you that something's not going to crease is going to crease. You know, you're going to get stuff in your smile lines. You know, I have people all the time. Well, how do I make that not happen? You don't. You're expressive. Go get Botox. I don't want to move my forehead, so I get Botox. You know what I mean? That's what we're all, you know.
You find that this one blends with like a different type of foundation?
I have tried it with pretty much everything and I've never had an issue with it. I think you have to be careful with how much you use because it can get very thick very fast. But if you're just a little bit more reserved with how much you're using, it's a very, very beautiful concealer. So now I'm gonna tap that out. I put a little bit through the bridge of her nose just to kind of redefine that. So now I'm gonna take whatever is left on here. I'm going to get a little more. I'm not going to use the light shade. I'm going to use the more medium shade that I used. And I'm going to go right underneath her cheekbones here to just add a little bit more coverage and blend that with the foundation brush. So look sideways for me. It's just going to sculpt that out and kind of blend everything together, but give her a little bit more coverage if we need it on the side of the cheeks. Okay. Now the fun part. So I have been using the Makeup by Mario powders. They are the closest ones to the Givenchy, that I have found. This is the Soft Blur in Fair Pink. So I tap a little bit into my cap here and I take a powder puff. I load this up. I don't even it out. I try to kind of even it up in my cap here. Cover me. And then I concentrate this right under the eye. I don't do like a true like baking method. I just find that this creates a little bit more coverage and kind of locks this in a little bit better. I don't do so much powder to where it's like a full bake, but it's just a little bit to where it gives that like super flawless under eye look, but you're not like taking on too much powder.
And you're using the powder like right up to the lash line?
Yep. I do it everywhere that I put concealer.
The powder is soft pink.
Yeah, it's the #1 soft pink. Mm-hmm. On Sephora?
We do have 3 powders, but we don't have that.
Oh yeah, I get this online because he gives me a discount, so that's the way to my heart. And then I'm gonna bake pretty much everywhere that I put the concealer. So right down the bridge of the nose, down the side of the jaw, and a little bit on the chin too. So now that I have that, I'm going to take a kind of like fluffier, more like dense brush. This is like a blush brush. And then I'm gonna just lightly kind of blend that all together. Sorry, I'm knocking all your baby hairs everywhere. So I didn't necessarily put powder everywhere, but now I'm just kind of taking what's left over and adding a light veil all over the skin to kind of lightly mattify and just set all of the cream work that we did. And then I'm gonna go back in with that little Real Techniques domed brush, look up for me, and just sweep all of that from underneath her eyes away. I don't let this sit super long because I feel like it clings on a little bit too much, and we still want a little bit of moisture underneath the eyes.
Would you do all the same steps even if someone had really dry skin?
Yeah, because we want the skin prep is what's going to save your dry skin. I always tell people I'll show you when I do my setting sprays how I layer my setting sprays. That's going to be what's really going to make the skin feel a lot more natural. So I'm going to go back in with powders. Now we're going to redefine everything out. So I'm going to take just an angled fluffy brush. I'm going to go in with the NARS, the regular Laguna. And I don't do anything super precise with this. I just want to bronze. I don't want to contour her back out. I just want to bronze her skin up. So I just make sure that you're blending into the hairline. You're not just blending to the edge of the ear. That way. And then I just will dust a little bit onto her neck and the side of her jaw. And look straight for me. And then on the forehead, always make sure you bronze the forehead. This is what's going to give that super sculpted look and not be super discolored anywhere. It's going to kind of bring everything in together by just hitting this hairline area as well. Like I said, I blend everything into the hairline. I'm my own hairstylist, so don't piss anybody off. It wasn't me. Cool. And I'm going to go in with the little fluffy brush that I did the cream contour. I'm just going to go over our cream nose contour with a little bit of powder.
And some people ask for like a contour or a bronzer like on their jawline. Do you ever do that? I would feel like you can see the line.
Sometimes I just do that and they're like, that looks so much better. I'm like, yeah. Because when, like, especially for her, she's super fair. You're going to see that. You're going to see that the second that you choose. Sometimes it's just about making them feel like you did something. You know what I mean? If they do, because most of the time I'll go like this and she'll be like, oh my God, that's so much better. I'm like, nice. You know, it's just about, you know, doing what they ask, making sure they feel good, but also making sure that you are in control of what's happening, because at the end of the day, it is your work. You want to make them happy, but you know, if it's going to, they're not going to be happy seeing a line in their photos later. You know, they're going to be like, why did you do that? You're like, well, you asked me to put more there, you know. If they go on, do it themselves, that's not on you, you know. I always say once you leave my chair and I take the photos, that's why you should take photos after everything. Because if they try to come back and tell you, well, I had a huge line on my neck. Well, no, you didn't. Not when I left. I have photos of everything, you know. So I'm going to use the House Labs. This is the peach or the pink dragon fruit is what it's called. And I'm just going to pop that. I'm a blush girly, so we're going to make her a blush girly today.
I'm a blush girly.
I know you're a blush girly. She has the cheekbones for being a blush girly, so. Nice long eyelids and beautiful cheekbones. And I just blend this with the same brush that I used my bronzer with. And I'm going to load her up with blush because we love it. And then this is where I feel like the magic happens. This is where I think this is a super important step. So I carry a couple of setting sprays. I carry the Milk Hydro Grip, the Airbrush Floss. These are going to set, and then you want to have a fixing spray. So my fixing spray is going to be my one size, but we want to set with this. So this is what's going to melt all of your powders together. because I don't want to do a super shiny look, the Milk Hydro Grip is going to give you that Sophia Richie, very wet looking skin. This is going to be a little bit heavier. The Airbrush Flawless is a little bit on the lighter side, so it's going to melt everything together, but it's not going to take too much of the powderiness away. The Milk Hydro Grip will do that, so just be careful with that one. Closer for me. I do a pretty good, I want to visibly see the setting spray on her face. Then I'm going to take the back of my foundation brush, the fluffier side, make sure there's no product on it, and I'm just going to blend everything together super, super lightly. If you rub with this, you're going to mess up, you're going to disturb the foundation underneath. You really just want to press that in, so like she can feel, do you feel how it's like kind of pressing everything together? You want it to be a slightly damp, but you don't want to be moving anything around. So super, super light, like almost barely have this in and just press this down. But see how this kind of blended everything together and everything looks a little bit more natural now, like the powderiness has been taken away. That's when sometimes, you know how clients will say like it feels like a lot. You just kind of soak them in setting spray and tap it out. It won't feel like that anymore. It's more the feeling of the powder on their face than it is really anything for most people, because that's what feels dry. So after I do this, this is when I'm going to put my glow on. So I've been super obsessed with these. I love the Glowgasm palette from Charlotte Tilbury, but these Rare Beauty, those toppers that they came out with, they're so cute. I love them so much. So again, you have to be a blush girly for this. If you're not a blush girly, they're not going to like this. But I just tap this right on top. So look that way for me. See how that just pulls everything together? It is shiny, but I like it. And most people do like it on top of that. So I mix, this is Happy and another shade close to Happy. I don't know. I didn't write it down.
Are those the ones that break?
Yeah. I don't, if you're not an experienced depotting queen, don't do this, okay? I broke one, but I dropped it, so that was my fault. If you don't have a Z powder, don't do it. You will break it. You will break it. I promise you'll break it. Coming from somebody that's broke like 9 of them, don't do it. But if you feel confident doing it, the baked powders are really nice because they come in that big bulky packaging. It's just about melting the glue underneath. And then I put a little metal guy underneath it. You just want to make sure, I'm scared to, you just want to make sure that you, I always label the bottom. I didn't label the other one for some reason, so my bad. Okay, so now we're going to do her under eyes. So I am going to take a fluffier brush, like a little bit of a fluffier pencil brush, and I'm going to run this like kind of pinky shade along with that shade that we used to blend everything out with. And I'm going to run that underneath her eye. Look up for me. I'm going to keep it initially really close to the lash line, but buff it out super, super seamlessly. I'm going to concentrate most of it to kind of see how we've connected the wing together and the outer corner there. That's really what we want to use this for, but this is just kind of going to bring everything together. Some people are not a huge fan of this, especially if they're going for a little bit more of a natural look. I will sometimes just take the bronzer that I've used and run that underneath. It gives them a little bit of color under there, but it's not super overwhelming, and it kind of matches everything as well. So this is where, now that I'm starting to do my finishing touches, I just am going to darken up her outer corner a little bit more. So I'm going to go in with what I did her brows with, and I'm going to take a little bit of that brown and black shadow. I'm just going to redefine these wings a little bit. I just really lightly press just to define them, just in case the concealer has kind of overlapped on anything.
I feel like it's scary to get the black on the cheek if it
is scary.
Fall off, that's such a problem.
I mean, if you're like loading it up, but since you're doing, that's why I always tap everything off. You just have to be careful, you know? That's, that's kind of the only way to avoid it. It's gonna happen, you know, and then you just have to fix it, unfortunately. I'm using, this is a really old, it's the Benefit, comes in the box, that Kilowatt highlighter is one of my favorite inner corner highlights. It's super bright, but it's not metallic-y. See how that looks? It's very bright, but it's not white, you know. I typically avoid anything that's actually white. I don't think people like that too much. I've had a few clients that have liked that, but I think the white can be a bit stark for some. So this is like a teeny bit of a gold undertone, so it gives a little bit less, but still gives that super bright look inside of the middle of the eye. I'm gonna do mascara now. So right now I'm using the waterproof L'Oreal Lash Paradise. I take this on the back of this guy and I roll this out. I'm going to take just a regular spoolie and I bend my spoolie sideways. And then I'm gonna just load up one side with mascara. I'm gonna have her look down and then I'm just gonna pull up. You want to make sure you're getting as close to that lash line as possible. Sometimes I'll take my thumb and just lightly lift up for these outer corners. But you do want a pretty good thick coat because the lashes are going to be our darkest element of this look. So we want to make sure that the mascara is pretty dark and blended. Open your eyes for me. This is also the time where you can kind of correct any little areas. Sometimes the individual lashes need a little guidance. You know, they need to be kind of put into place. So a waterproof mascara will do that. I personally don't use anything but like black waterproof mascara. Some people carry non-waterproof, but I feel like it's not worth the liability for me to get it all over your face. So okay, look up for me. And then I'm not like I don't do super heavy under mascara. I just like to run across what's already left on my brush. Keep them super soft, and I really just kind of touch the base of the lashes. Some people have really long lashes underneath, and it's gonna kind of get all over their eyes. Like she has really pretty lashes underneath. So we wanna define them, but we don't want them to be like spider lashes, you know. Some people like that, and I just give the mascara wand to them because they're very specific about what they want to do. So I'll just give it to them and let them do that. Okay, so now I'm going to take my little baby spoolie. I'm going to take the Kosas Air Brow, and this is dark brown. I'm going to do a little bit darker than what she has on her eyes. On her as the powder that we did, a little bit darker just to kind of pop the brows. But you see how much a difference the tinted brow gel makes between each brow? Okay. Close your eyes for me. There's always one little piece of mascara everywhere. Okay, now I'm going to choke her out a little bit. I use a lot of fixing spray. I love this stuff. I was not a setting spray believer, but this stuff really, really locks it in. It does kind of, you want to put enough on because you want to create the crust. That's the whole point of it. You want it to be wet and then dry down. Close your eyes for me. And then I will always hit her with the fan just like right under her nose so she's not choking, because she will choke a little bit. So I'll just let this dry for just a second. But you also, if anybody has, she doesn't have a lot of hair on her face, but if some people have a lot of hair on their face, you want to go in and just tap it down on the skin so that it kind of suctions to the face, because you'll highlight all of the hair that's on while you use that setting spray, because it does have a little teeny bit of that like white finish. Not really, but it can cling to the little baby hairs and make them look super pronounced, and we don't want that. Okay. No, that's good. So we're gonna do lips now. Do we want a little bit of a deeper lip, or do we want to do something a little more natural? A little more natural. Okay. Same thing as the eyeliners. Spray it down, wipe it down, and then we're gonna run it through a sharpener. I like a pretty sharp lip pencil personally, so I'll just go through and kind of warm it up on the side of my, I kind of do it like between my knuckles, if that makes sense, on my little area to kind of make it sharper, if that makes sense. And then I'm gonna have you open your lips. This is Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Pillow Talk 2. This is the medium. The Pillow Talk 1 to me is a little bit too cool for most people. I love the Pillow Talk 2, and then I put the original Pillow Talk on top, and it kind of creates that, you know, darker on the outside, lighter on the inside lip. This is a pretty classic wedding combo. I feel like most light to medium skin tones, this was a pretty natural pink lipstick for most people. I will say I love the Charlotte Tilbury Supermodel. That is, to me, like Pillow Talk's like darker older sister. So I just create a really soft base with my liner. I don't really typically, unless my bride asks me to do a really stark liner and then blend everything together, I like a little bit of a softer liner, but I am just making sure that I outline everything as much as possible. Okay. And all right, and then I have all of my lip products in a like bigger view set like this. I pretty much always apply with a doe foot applicator. I just find they're easier than like washing a lip brush. I can just throw these away and I can use as many as I want. So I'm gonna do Charlotte Tilbury Supermodel. I'm gonna just bring a little chunk out. I'm gonna put that on the back of my hand. See, I always like run out of space. Like I used to use the little ones and I just always would get it all over the place. So this is a satin lipstick, so I most of the time will put a gloss over top. I do give my clients a sample of the lipstick and the gloss that I use, so I'll give them two separately, and I'll just label which one is which. I just prefer a little bit of a softer lip if I'm in charge, but if the bride has something very particular in mind, I'll go with, you know, whatever she's comfortable with. But I just like a little bit more of a natural soft lipstick in general. 99% of the time they don't even touch it up. So you want it to just look, you want it to start starker, and then as it's going to fade, they're going to be kissing everyone 900 times. So most of the time it's just going to fade down. I tell everyone you want to have a shade that is going to look good as it fades throughout the night. Also, sometimes, you know, they're going to go run around and brush their teeth and go eat and do whatever, and sometimes I'll have them come back to do lips. So I'll fully complete everything first and then do that afterwards too. I check with all of my brides that they have brushed their teeth, because most of the time they're going to want to brush their teeth, and you don't want them to brush their teeth after you leave. So I'm going to do the Tower 28 gloss in coconut on top of this. I used to have a lot of the lip glosses from MAC, but I've switched to these, and I feel like these are the least sticky glosses I've ever used, and they kind of melt into lipstick. You know, sometimes they will sit on top of lipstick and they don't really blend in. I feel like every lipstick I've ever used on top of these blend in really, really pretty. And this is just kind of a brighter pink shade. And I don't really do like, I call it the housewives lip. You know how they have like, it looks like they have chunked on as much lip gloss as they can. I like a really, really light lip gloss on top because you don't want it to necessarily wear off too fast and then wear away all your lipstick underneath either. Cool. Smush that together for me. Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna do one more layer of setting spray. Close your eyes for me. And then we're gonna do body glow. So I use the Live Tinted body glows. I love them. They're my favorite. They're not shimmery. I do have like a glittery, the Patrick Ta like oil to go on top if somebody wants like glitter. But I go in, this is the Live Tinted, the Moonchild one. So this is the lightest one that they have. I'll go in with my foundation brush and I will put that on and just buff this in. Now, I always ask my brides where their dress ends. You don't want to get this even close, just in case. You don't want to be that guy. You know, you don't want to be the guy that got makeup all over her wedding dress because she slid it on and didn't realize. So I just add a little light layer of this, but I also set it with setting spray too. But see how it gives a light glow and it's not super overwhelming. And I always add it right to the shoulder caps if she has a dress that's gonna be like that. It's gonna show the shoulders. Same thing. Let that try. And then you show her and she tells you how beautiful she is and then you're done. Okay, is there any makeup questions anyone has?
What is your other like Mario Kart like?
So I just bought the 3 peach and the number 1. Those are just the 2 ones that I just got to try out. I really like them, so I'll probably end up getting most of them. I'm using up the rest of the other powders that I have first before I buy any more. But I'm using the rest of my Givenchy powder up. I bought a backup. Yeah, I bought a backup before they ruined my entire life.
I did too. I found one of those piece of four and these frames had like a couple of minis.
Yeah. They told them to take it off the shelf. I didn't know that. I was like, that's really mean, girl. That's so upsetting. Why are you guys doing this to me?
I actually got the new one just to try it. It's trash.
Do you want to put the PowerPoint?
So shiny.
So, how long do bridal applications take?
Start to finish, no longer than an hour. I try to keep it pretty short and sweet. I'm a yapper though, so sometimes if I am having like a lot of fun, I'm like, ah, shit, I went an hour, 15 hour, 20 minutes. But I have
included skin prep, everything.
Yep, everything included, yeah. The more organized this is, the faster you're gonna be. I would say I've watched people, I've trained people, and most of the time it's this. That's like 75% of people's makeup time is it takes them a really, really long time to look and see what they have. If you have everything laid out and you know exactly where everything is, you're gonna be able to, you're gonna cut down on 50% of your makeup time. I can do a bridesmaid in 30 minutes, you know? I can do a quality bridesmaid look in 30 minutes. It takes time. You have to also know how to ask the right questions. And it also depends on how picky they are going to be. You know what I mean? I think it's really important to know what you have and what works well in your kit together, and know exactly where it is at all times. Like I could probably close my eyes and tell you where everything is in here. I move it around all the time just to kind of see how, but like I have everything facing up. I know I organize everything also by brand so that I know exactly what is in what, and I have everything labeled by like I'll show you. So I have my Kit Pack palettes. These are my most used blushes, and inside I know exactly what all of these blushes are inside. You know, I know exactly what they like, blushes on the top. So I know when I'm going into my little container here, this is blush. So I know, okay, I'm picking up blush, my most used blush. I know what's in here. I know where it is, and I just pick that up and I can pick up the shade. Same thing. But you don't also need to overwhelm yourself with products. You don't need to have 9 stick contours that are the exact same shade. You're just going to overwhelm yourself, and then you're going to be like, which one do I want to use? Oh, I've had that in my kit for like 9 years. I should probably get rid of that, you know. I also recommend having a spreadsheet of everything that you have in your kit when you open it and when you throw it away. So you know exactly how long everything is being recycled in your kit. Whenever I kind of try to do like restocks every like 3 months, I try to not let myself buy makeup in between there, because then I have too much and I'm not using up what I have, and then it's going to waste. So keeping yourself, you know, we don't need 9. As much as I want to have 9 of the same pink blushes because I just like buying them, I kind of hold myself back. I'm like, I have that already. I don't need that, you know, especially because everybody seems to have a new launch every 5 seconds. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's more makeup coming out. What's going on? So I have an iPhone. I'm obnoxious, so you don't have to be like me. I have an iPhone 15 and I have an iPhone 14. I think my 14 takes way better pictures than my 15 does, but I think the 15 takes better video than the 14. So I kind of split between the two. Use whatever phone you have. It doesn't really matter too much. I'm just a little bit OCD and picky. Most of the time I use the makeup light. They're the panel lights. I will get that pretty close to her. We have beautiful natural light in here. I would say 75% of the time we don't get natural light. So when I get natural light, I'm going to use it. And then I just like to take everything from all angles. I take 15 to 20 seconds at a time so that I can just splice up what's going to look good. So when you go back and look at that, the natural light is going to be kind of the best light. These lights back here, normally you wouldn't want these lights back here, but I don't want to get her too close so that you guys can see. But cinematic mode is also super, super pretty. Open and look at me. Please smile. Beautiful. Look down at the floor. Lighting is the most important thing. I typically say, like, I know some people think like this is enough. I like to have my big panel light. I like a lot of light. I think that's the best way to see everything. But again, natural light is going to be the best that you can take photos with. Then I'm going to take a couple portrait photos. So I'm going to hold this above. Here. Chin up for me and look down at the floor. I take like 900 photos and videos. You're gonna eventually have one, but I always go into Lightroom. This is the thing that I'll show you the difference between the 14 and the 15. The 15 takes very dark photos. I don't know, I'm sure you guys have seen that online. The 15 takes really dark photos. Like, look at the difference.
That issue with my sister the other day on the viewfinder, like the screen right there, it looked amazing. And then by
The photo.
they were contrasting dark.
Let me show you the difference. And I know that it's camera settings, but like, I don't have the patience to mess with that. Look at the difference. Oh, whoa. Whoa. But see how just the difference it makes? I will go through. I don't recommend you edit your photos. You don't want to edit your work. I always edit my lighting. You know, you can always make the lighting look a little bit better. Sometimes the photo, like, take your time. If you have the time to take good photos, take them in different areas, take them as many places as you can, because you never know what's going to turn out good and what's not going to. I think video just in general is a better outlet. Most people are looking at video. We'll kind of talk about that too. Yeah, reels are what you're looking for. Open your eyes for me. People want to see real skin. People want to see texture. We're all sick of seeing the, face-tuned, blown-out stuff. Brides are going to book you by looking at real people that look like them. The people that are going to pay your bills are going to be the people that have textured skin, are going to be the people that look like regular people. Those are the people that you want to market to. It's okay that they have texture on their skin. Everybody does. you're just not going to edit it out because that's silly. You know, it's kind of, you just did all of this work, you want to show it, you know? And I don't think there's anything wrong with editing your photos. I think it's kind of a controversial thing. I'll go into Lightroom and I will just adjust anything. Sometimes if they have like a big zit, I don't like to post something like if it's like, you know, because the photographers are going to edit it out for them, but sometimes they're like, please don't put my zit on your Instagram. I'm like, I'll edit out your zit for you. You know what I mean?
appreciate all that as well.
Yeah, I'm like, just edit out the zip for you. So I will go through and I'll kind of chop everything up. I use InShot to edit and Lightroom, the Adobe Lightroom. I just will kind of play sometimes with like the hues and stuff because sometimes too, the background is going to matter greatly how the photos come out. Like I just did a bride, I'll show you the other day. Everything looked super warm because the wallpaper was like orange. No, not you. Where'd Joanna go? Oh yeah, that wedding that we did a couple of weeks ago, Chloe, all of her photos were super, super yellow because her background is super, super yellow. So I just went in and lightened the front of this video so that it didn't feel so orange because it was making my makeup look super orange when it was like the complete opposite of that. So finding tasteful, tactful ways to edit without editing your makeup is super important because the quality of your videos do matter for sure. Is there any questions about taking photos?
You mentioned taking screenshots of your videos. Is that after, or is that using the little circle thing there?
I will do that while I'm editing. So I'll just kind of go through and I'll screenshot and then just edit this down because I feel like sometimes I just sometimes think video looks like so much better than photo. You know what I mean? Like the video just looks like cleaner. You know what I mean? So I just screenshot both and then you can see which one looks better. You know, there's nothing wrong with either, but I always like to have photo and video because sometimes photos, you know, your bride can kind of look at them a little bit better that way too. Anybody else?
Build any time to take photos of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't get photos. Sometimes they're rushing off and it's okay. You know, I tell people your wedding is not for my content. My content, if you want to let me get content, I would love to. I have most of my brides find me on Instagram, so they know what I do. I put it in my contract. If there are people, I always ask at my wedding, is everybody comfortable with being filmed? If you're not comfortable being filmed, absolutely we will not film you. I've blurred people's face out before. If they don't feel like they want to be on it, I've had brides that are like, please don't put me on your Instagram. I'm like, solid, we won't, you know. It's up to them. If I don't have time to take photos, I don't have time to take photos. It's not about me, it's about them. You know what I mean? I film everything in the background. I go through, it's a little bit painstaking to kind of go through and delete everything after and do that. If you want to play the social media game, you got to put the work into it, you know, it is very time consuming. So